All right. In this video, I want to talk about the rapture heads. I don't know what other name to give them, so I'm just going to call them the rapture heads. And who these people are not people that are looking for the rapture and thinking it's soon, like someone like myself or maybe you. But it's those people who their whole ministry is about the rapture and when it's going to happen. Those are people I'm putting in a group, and I'm calling them for right now the rapture heads. Because all they're doing with their ministry is talking about, hey, maybe the rapture is at the head of the year, the first month. Maybe it's at Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Shavuot, Pentecost, trumpets, atonement, tabernacles. And then they'll say, well, maybe Hanukkah or the Feast of Oil, the Feast of Trees. They keep going on where, hey, maybe it's here, maybe it's there. And it's very interesting stuff because you get to learn about uh, the Jewish feasts, and you get to think about how God may be planning things out. But like I've said in previous videos, excuse me, I think you should narrow down the year before you start trying to narrow down the day. And it seems like everybody that's part of this that's what they're focused on. Not so much the year, but the day. And I started thinking about how fruitful their ministries are. Because, yeah, we are to exhort one another and comfort one another. But when we're reaching out to the world as our ministry, it's to actually win souls over, to show them that not only have they sinned greatly against God, but they're sinners by nature, where you naturally want to go against God and you want to be selfish and do what you want to do. So not only do you need your sins paid for, but you need to be a new creature. The only way for that to happen is for you to die by faith through Jesus Christ, that you can also raise to life through him as well, where you meet God at the cross, and by faith you exchange lives with him. He gives you his perfect, eternal life in exchange for your imperfect, mortal life. And if you're willing to make that offer, you are born again, you're sealed with the Holy Spirit, and you're saved. Now, I don't know how many people that's winning over when you're constantly saying, hey, maybe the rapture's here, maybe it's there. And some of these people are just watching you, unbelievers. They're saying, well, they keep saying the rapture's here and it never happens. So you're kind of leading them to be kind of like, these people don't know what they're talking about. They're foolish, right? And I know a lot of these people who talk about the rapture, they're saying we're not predicting the day or the hour. We're in a sense speculating, but speculating with an educated guess, right? And I agree with them. But a lot of the people that we're trying to win over, they're not getting into the detail of what you're saying. They just say, hey, rapture's here, rapture's here. And we're just wondering how fruitful that is. Granted, I could be wrong, right? Maybe there's a lot of people who they start getting convicted that something's going on. Maybe God is going to get his people soon, and it gets to them and convicts them. Maybe that happens. I'm just not seeing it, right? And I've been talking about it, and there's times where you see that all this talk about the rapture, hey, it's going to happen right now, it's going to happen at this feast, at that feast, that it can lead to a few things. One, the positive is that it can fire people up, right? Hey, I think the rapture is going to be at Pentecost. And hey, Pentecost, that's at the end of July here. We're in July. Maybe it's then. fires you up to get you on fire for God and start preaching the gospel with more oomph, trying to reach family and friends and everybody else, your community, all those in your sphere, and giving more to donations for missionary work and all this stuff. Maybe it fires you up. That's the good, positive thing, right? You get people on fire. And maybe a lot of people get saved from that. Hopefully, a lot of people have been getting saved from that. But what happens when it doesn't happen? Then you got to make sure those people stay on fire. And your whole ministry is, well, hey, well, maybe it's going to happen, well, at this next feast. Okay, well, then this next feast. Okay, well, then this next feast. Okay, well, then at this next feast. At this next appointed time. No, it's at this one. It's at this one. And it never happens. Well, that fire isn't as fervent because you're like, yeah, maybe he will, maybe he won't. I'm not sure. Hopefully he will. Hopefully, but not too sure. So that fire just settles. And then other people, their reaction to thinking, oh, well, the rapture's coming, is it's the opposite. It makes them ice cold because they were already on fire, right? They're on fire thinking they're either going to live out the rest of their life here and die here because they didn't expect the rapture to come. So they were going to do everything they can to further God's kingdom and preach the gospel. And now they're thinking, oh, well, the rapture's at the end of the month. They're kind of slowing down and chilling out and being like, all right, well, no point in putting too much effort in, and we're just going to leave. And a lot of these people are just rejecting the message anyway, and becoming more rude and disrespectful and even violent. So why bother? We just wait, and here we go. And then as this goes on, constantly, hey, well, maybe it's here, maybe it's there, people start to become a bit more lukewarm. Right? Like, all right, well, maybe he's coming now, maybe not. And they're just kind of chilling out. Because how many times can you go to your family and friends saying, hey, maybe the rapture's going to be right now at this feast? And some people, they've been saying this every year since 2016-17, when they saw the Rapture 12 sign. Revelation 12 sign, my bad. Actually, I said Rapture 12. But, yeah, how many times can you be saying that? Like, maybe at first you convicted them a little bit. They started thinking about what you're saying. But now they just look at you as a nut. And in some cases, yeah, if you keep saying, hey, it's going to happen this year, and it doesn't, you keep making logical points about why it's this year, and it doesn't happen, you might be doing more damage than you are doing good. So if anything, you should be trying to narrow down the year. And other than that, just talk about it's going to be soon. Not too sure when, but I'm watching. Right? Because you're not trying to push people away. And your message to the world is the gospel. How Jesus Christ died for their sins, was buried, and rose again the third day. You're not to tell the world Jesus is coming to get his church, the rapture's coming. That's not the message. Right? That's something that the church talks about among ourselves to encourage one another. Now, the reason why I'm talking like this and talking a bit negative about this is because I was a little annoyed about a couple of things. The first one is something I talked about before, where I was listening to a Barber video, YouTube user End Time Dream and Vision, and he makes a lot of good points, puts a lot of good things together, but he made a video, it might have been a year ago now, where he's talking about history repeating itself and the Shemitah cycles, and he was using what happened at World War II, and he was showing the moon cycles, right? And I'm going to use these buildings here. You got a blue light on this one, a blue light on this one, and we have a blue light here on the top of this one, and a blue light on the top of this one over here. So we got 4 of them, right? Let's just say those are, uh, okay, here's another one with blue light. So let's use the 5 of these. That, and another one right here. So let's use the 6. Oh, we got 7. All right, we're going to use the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you know what? Here's an 8th one. All right, 8. We're just going to use those 8, okay? I'll try not to add any more. And let's just say that these ones that are popping up, these are the blood moons. Like, okay, let's say this is on April, and then another time at July the next year, at March, right? These are just different months where there's a blood moon, right? Now, he was showing that up to the point of when World War II started, because it ended up being 7 years, and then Israel was formed as a nation. He would take a cluster. Like he was like, "Hey, look, there was this pattern here where there was like 2 blood moons close together, and then a year later we had 1, 2, and 3 really close together, and then all of a sudden we had a cluster of 2, and then another cluster of 2." And he goes, "Guess what? We have the same pattern happening here in the 2020s, in the year 2020 through 2030." He's like, "Hey, we got the same pattern, right?" But he shows something interesting. He goes, "Okay, so after this cluster of 2 blood moons, then we have a cluster of 1, 2, 3 blood moons, and after the cluster of 3, we have World War II start." Right? He's like, "Okay, so we should make the connection that World War III would start at the same time after this cluster of 3. But for some reason, he says, oh no, we should be raptured and the World War III should start before this cluster of 3. Like, he didn't line it up like it makes sense. Because he's saying, okay, the same exact pattern of blood moons that showed up in the 1930s, 40s there, the same pattern is happening again. So if the same pattern is what we're going to use to map things out, well, then we should look at what happened after the cluster of 3, when that's when the World War II started. Why would you say it would happen this time before the cluster of 3? It's like you're intentionally leading people astray to think that, hey, things are going to happen sooner than they are. I was like, why would you do that? And I was starting to think, what was the agenda for doing this? You know, there's a lot of people coming out talking about the rapture, and they keep putting on these dates. Why is that? Like, not only that, but there's these little intentional things that are changed, such as a couple years ago, might have been a year ago, around the Feast of Trumpets. Barry was talking about how the Jewish calendar is a month off, right? They're celebrating things a month early because they didn't add a month yet, but they'll plan on doing it the following year. They'll add the month at the end, right? So when they think that the Feast of Trumpets is, it's actually a month later, right? Yet he made, right after he said that, talking about the Feast of Trumpets, and then later on in that month, Atonement, and then later on the Feast of Tabernacles, he went and he made a video talking about, hey, maybe at this time of Hanukkah, a month early, right? Even though he said that they're a month off, he started talking about when the Jews celebrate Hanukkah. Hey, maybe that's when the rapture is. And then he goes, oh, later on, the next month, he does another Hanukkah video going, oh, this is when Hanukkah really is. And I'm like, why did you intentionally do that? You knew it was a month off, yet you told everybody, hey, maybe this month, and it didn't happen. And I was thinking, well, maybe they're actually trying to discourage people. Right? Maybe this is God's way of actually weeding out the true believers. The true believers, they're not going to waver because of people saying things like this. But The false ones will eventually get sick of this and they'll fall away. Sick of all the, oh, it didn't happen this time. Oh, it's supposed to happen now. It didn't happen. And they're just going to lose heart because they don't actually have that one-on-one relationship with God where they trust in Him. They're thinking, oh, well, if I be part of this whole movement, God will take me with Him. Right? They have a relationship with you, with the church, with the people who are leaving. They don't have a relationship directly with God. So maybe this is something God uses to actually get those kind of people away. Because when Jesus rose from the dead, He only revealed Himself to those that actually believed. Right? And only those that believe watched Him go up. So maybe that's what it's going to be like. It's a personal relationship with you and God. It's not going to be something for everybody else to be witnessing. It's not for everybody else to be around for, right? So I was just thinking, like, why would they be doing these things? I was like, yeah, maybe it is to discourage, right? Because the end time church is lukewarm, right? Is kind of falling away. Maybe this is one of those things that increases that. Maybe it is. I'm still looking at the feast days, thinking, hey, well, maybe this could be it, right? But I'm not going to make a whole ministry about that and just keep telling people, oh, I think it's here. You're like, no, just every year at the feast days, I pay a little bit more attention. And that's about it. I don't really talk to people about the rapture, especially unbelievers. I don't talk to them about such things. Why would I do that? Right? If I talk to them about religious things, I talk to them about God and about His existence. To try to break down their foundation where they believe in things like evolution and these things that would push them away from believing God and establish how God's the creator and He sets the standard and that we're all mortals. We never know when our time is up. Get them to think about facing death and preparing for death and facing judgment. Get them thinking about those things. Now, granted, you can talk about the rapture with those who won't accept the gospel. Be like, okay, when you see that happen, people just kind of gone. But like I was talking to the wife this morning, I was like, I don't even know if people will notice. Right? Like you hear Barbara and others talk about solar flares and EMPs. So when we're taken up, God coming this close to the earth to get us might have an effect that wipes out the grid all over the world, the electric grid. And there's not going to be communication. So if we're just taken up and gone, I don't know if we just teleport up or people are going to see us go up in the air. I don't know how it's going to be. But they might not even notice. Like if they're inside, maybe they're not going to notice. Right? The power's out, no one knows what's going on, and then all of a sudden sirens are going off because they think, oh, maybe this is an attack from China, from Russia, from some joint force is attacking us. And people are going to think, all right, well, my family and friends that are gone, maybe they got lost in all this chaos. Maybe they were attacked by some mob or got caught up in a riot that happened because of the power outages. They might not know you were even gone. So to talk to them about the rapture and then these events happen, they might not even connect it to the rapture. Right? So we might not be able to count on that to be as a stepping stone to let them know, hey, things have changed. They might have to find out the hard way. Kind of like in that movie that Kevin Sorbo produced think it's something like The Left Behind, The Rise of the Antichrist, something like that. And in that movie, there was a part that he played as an unbelieving husband, and his wife was taken, and he was trying to look up Rapture in the Bible, like through a Bible app or an online, and there was nothing he could find. Like everything that we're putting out wasn't online. You couldn't find anything, right? So, uh, yeah, that's kind of how it might be. They might not get the information. Only things that you actually have in your home that they can come and research themselves so that they can build that relationship with God themselves is actually going to lead them to the truth. It's not just going to be laid out for them where they can just go, oh, all this work was laid out for us. No, the time of grace is going to be taken. And the internet is actually a great gift of grace that we don't deserve. We have all that information at our fingertips, but we don't use it to learn and study and to increase in uh, practical, productive knowledge. And definitely don't. A lot of us aren't using it to get to know God and to better understand His Word and the history of the world and the sciences and all that stuff. Watching cat videos and dog videos and entertainment and pornography and all these other things we're using it for. And then all of a sudden it's going to be taken from us. And when all these people want this information, it's not going to be there. So these people with these ministries, I'm starting to question it a bit. One of the reasons that got me to start questioning it a bit more was there was a guy who just popped out of nowhere, Messiah 2030, put out a video. Very informative stuff. But he wasn't using the King James Bible. I thought that was a little telling, right? And some people might not think that's a big deal. I'm not going to get too much into it here, but I was thinking, oh, okay, that's just a subtlety. Like this guy's trying to share this information with you. He's not using the King James. So let's say people do know the rapture happens. They will feel comfortable using any Bible they grab a hold of. And if you grab something like an ESV, for example, you read Isaiah 14, it doesn't say Lucifer, it calls him the morning star. Then you read Revelation, which a lot of people are going to do. It says Jesus is the morning star. So because of that Bible version right there, you could get people to think that Satan and Jesus are the same person. Or Lucifer. If you don't think Satan and Lucifer are the same person, you would think that Lucifer and Jesus are the same person. So it would lead to confusion. Just for an example. And I was just remembering Barry Zaw video before I did this one. I was listening to his latest one. I don't know, it was part 5 of 3 or something like that. And he was talking about Exodus 32, I believe it is. We're in the King James, because he'll use the King James. But in there he was talking about how it talks about at this passage that they had a feast of banqueting or something like that. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was talking about a banquet. And he was saying, well, the Septuagint and the Dead Sea Scrolls reveal information showing, this had to do with wine, the banqueting of wine, because he really wanted to push his whole idea of this Feast of Wine, Pentecost, the new wine, is the rapture. So he needed to put wine into the scriptures there. So he found a reason to do that by getting you to doubt the King James Version's translation. Oh, that wasn't correct. The Septuagint has it wine. Notice he didn't go to the original Hebrew. It doesn't matter if the Septuagint, which is a translation of the Hebrew, put wine in there. If it's not in the original, then that would be an addition, which is a contradiction with a lot of these people who talk about how the King James adds to the Greek texts. Yet, when you take something like the Septuagint, it changes and adds to the Hebrew, and nobody bats an eye about that. It shows you that there's something going on there. Not to mention that the Septuagint wasn't really actually written until sometime 200 years after Jesus, and it's given credit as if it was existed before Jesus. Some even say that Jesus actually quoted from the Greek when he quoted from Isaiah, and that's just utterly ridiculous. But there's people who want to push that and support the Septuagint because the Septuagint changes some things from the Hebrew. And, Satan wants you to wait away from what God actually said, and he'll just make subtle changes to do so. The Septuagint, which was actually written by Origen, changed a whole lot of things. And it also brought in the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha, the 7 books of the Old Testament that are Apocrypha writings, because some of them were written in the time of no prophet in Israel. There's like a 400 plus year period where there's no prophet there. They don't have the original authors to some of these writings because they were written later on by a pseudo author or by oral tradition, such as the Book of Enoch, which is not one of those 7 books, but just use them as an example. And you also have a time where Solomon fell into apostasy. So even if you had his original writings, which make up 1 or 2 of these apocryphal books, doesn't mean it lines up with the rest of scriptures and that he was actually following God when he wrote it. Okay? So people like to go to the something like the Septuagint because it agrees with them. And that's what I noticed Beria did when he really wanted this feast to be about wine. He added to the Word of God by going to the Septuagint and then talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Again, leading people astray, but subtly. You see, when we're gone, somebody's going to look at somebody like Beria, and they're going, well, he was supporting the Septuagint. He was supportive of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls had all kinds of writings with it. Some like the Book of Enoch, which no one thinks is canon because it wasn't written originally by Enoch and then it was copied over and over until we got to this point, such as when we look at something like the Gospel of John. It was originally written by John, we know that, and we have copies of it, kind of like we had the Declaration of Independence, originally written by, I think it was more than one author there. I think Thomas Jefferson has something to do with that. And we have exact copies of it, right? Now, if we didn't have the originals and then all of a sudden we're trying to make a copy off of memory, well, we can't say that that's what it was. We're just trying to go by memory of something we don't have. That's oral tradition. That's not something that is a solid foundation. It's more like shifting sand. And that's what we get when we come to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah, you could probably learn some things about what's going on at the time, learn some history, like you can from the Apocrypha. You can learn about history, such as the Maccabean Revolt, the rebellion there, and Hanukkah. You can learn about that Feast of Dedication through 1st and 2nd Maccabees. But you can't get doctrine out of these books, right? Because they're not inspired by God. And you leaning on these things lead people astray. Even subtly, you're leading them astray to put their trust in something they can't put their trust in, such as the Septuagint and the Dead Sea Scrolls. If you're speaking English, you get your King James Bible. That's the only translation that you can rely on. All the others are copywritten, showing that they're owned by man. It's man's word, not God's, because man cannot make money off of God's word. Man can't tell you that you can't use God's word and sue you for doing so, right? Not to mention with these different Bibles, you get contradictions, you get all kinds of different things going on. Just as I mentioned about Lucifer and Jesus both being the morning star in the ESV. There was a lot of different changes. So, when I was thinking about these things, what is that phrase? The devil's in the details. I don't like to use that because I know God is very detailed. Right? He made our fingerprints. He made our DNA. He makes the snowflakes that are each very tiny and all unique. None of them are the exact same. So God is in the details. Yet we don't pay attention to the details of that fine print, right? Because Satan's always the one depicted with a contract that you sign in blood, and there's always the fine print that you can't really read too well. Well, the devil's in the details in that sense, where he likes to subtly change things, where it doesn't seem so bad. Like even in the garden, what he said didn't seem really bad at all. Well, he said, well, didn't God say you could freely eat from every tree of the garden? He copied what God said. God did say that. But he subtly left out that, hey, there's this one tree you can't eat of. Right? So it's those little things. That's all it takes. What I like to use is Jesus saying that I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Right? Jesus is the truth. So if there's a little bit of truth that you reject because you don't like it, it doesn't fit your worldview, your beliefs, what you want to be true, well, you're rejecting a little bit of Jesus. And in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, it talks about how there's people who have a great delusion given to them, that they would believe a lie. Why? Because they did not love the truth. Now, I'm not saying that you have to know the whole truth and nothing but the truth and accept every little piece of the truth to be saved. You just need to accept the fact that you have sinned because you're a sinner and you need Jesus Christ to take your place so that you can be a new creature. And if you truly believe he did that for you, because God's for you, he's not against you, he loves you, he's very patient with you, very gracious and merciful. If you just call on him, he would save you. You call on Jesus, he'll change you. He'll save you. He'll change you from the inside out. You believe this, that's what saves you. But if you go on rejecting the littlest bit of truth, that starts leading you down a different path. It starts ruining your relationship with God because he is the truth. So when you reject any little piece of it, you're rejecting him. Now, if you're like me, I don't want to reject any bit of him. I want to accept every little bit. Even if I don't like it, if it doesn't fit with my worldview, if it makes me look like a piece of shit, I don't care. If it's the truth, it's the truth. That's what I want. It's who God is. It's what he is. I want all of him. And if you're the same way, you understand why I would make a video like this where it seems like I'm nitpicking. You can call me nitpicking, getting on me, whatever you want to say. It don't bother me. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. The truth's the truth. That's that. And even if you're subtly going to drift from it, I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, it's not a big deal. It's just a little bit. All right, well, let me just throw a couple grains of sand in your eye or a little splinter in your eye. That's just a little bit. It's not a big deal. Or how I like to put it to really get the point across is like, okay, you got a bowl of Cocoa Puffs, but one of those puffs is actually rabbit turd. Or you know what? You can say it's human turd. Now, how do you feel about that bowl? You gonna eat it? Hey, it's just one little puff. What's the big deal? Well, if you think it's a big deal, you think a big deal about a little splinter in your eye, some grain of sand in there. Well, that's how I feel about You rejecting any little piece of truth and try to subtly get away from the Word of God, to change it in any way, adding, remove to it. I don't care. You think it's just a little bit, not a big deal. It is a big deal. And you give an inch, next thing you know, miles taken. You make a couple little changes, all of a sudden, it just became giant changes. All you got to do is make a bunch of small, subtle ones. And those small, little, subtle changes create big changes. Right? So you nip it in the bud early. Right? Kind of like a child. You're starting to see them develop some kind of selfish, rotten behavior. You don't just go, oh, that was kind of cute, that was kind of funny. No, you scold them for it. You do whatever you got to do to let them know that kind of behavior is not acceptable. Because if you wait until they're older, when it's not cute anymore, it's already been ingrained in them, and it's a lot tougher to get rid of. Like weeds. You see it small, you can just tear it up, not a big deal. But once they get real big, they're a pain in the ass to get rid of. So you take care of the problem when it's small, right? Just an ounce of prevention is worth pounds of cure. Right? It's better not to get sick at all than to have to take the cure. Right? So hopefully with all these different analogies I'm throwing at you, you understand where I'm coming from. Now hopefully, these people do got good intentions. They're just trying to encourage people. They're looking forward to Jesus. But I mean, my point of view is like, yeah, okay, Jesus is coming. Get the gospel out. Correct people on doctrine. Make sure everybody's getting the Word of God and getting into the Word of God. And make sure it's the King James. Right? I don't see these people talking about doctrine, making sure you're getting right with God. You're getting into prayer and getting into the Word. Even if it's just reading a little bit in the morning, a little bit before you go to bed. And make sure it's that King James. Now, if you're speaking another language, you're probably not watching this video. Unless all of a sudden God's using the gift of tongues on the videos. Then you find whatever version built off the Texas Receptus and or using the King James to translate it. I know there's other Bibles in different languages used the Texas Receptus to translate. And not only that, there's Bibles that use that and the King James to translate into their language. So those are the ones I would suggest to use. But anyway, that being said, thanks for watching. Take care.
That fella couldn't join the church. He couldn't join the church. He couldn't get baptized. He couldn't get baptized. He woke up with God. He woke up with the devil. Are you saved? Amen. So that fella didn't take the sacraments. Didn't take the sacraments. Didn't say the rosary. Didn't take the rosary. Didn't tithe. Didn't tithe. He went to heaven. He went to hell. You saved? Didn't keep the law. He didn't keep the law. He broke the commandments. He broke the commandments. He didn't keep the golden rule. He didn't keep the golden rule. He woke up in glory. He woke up in the pit. Are you saved? You're saved. If you're not saved, you're over here or you're over here. You sure ain't in the middle. He said, Lord, remember me, thou comest thy kingdom. And Jesus turned to him and said, verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be saved. It's like that. You have been saved? If you ever saved, you were saved like that.